Hi, I'm James. Welcome to Homegrown. On this week's episode, we're going to talk all about one of the best times of year here in South Dakota, the harvest season. So we're here with Jerry Schmitz from South Dakota Soybeans. Jerry, we've been out touring around looking at some of the awesome activities that are going on this fall. One of the absolute best times in my mind in South Dakota is harvest season. So give us just a little bit of an overview of, for those that are just driving by on the highway, what's going on out in those fields and why are farmers putting in so many hours right now?
Right now is probably the most intense time for farm families.
Yeah.
Not only the farmer, whether that be the dad or the mom, in a lot of cases it is mom today, but the kids are involved as well. They kind of take back up at home, making sure meals are ready to go out to the field. And the reason everybody is in such a hurry is that when the crop is ready, you never know what Mother Nature is going to do. She has the final say.
Right.
And we've seen what's happened in areas like Florida. And of course, we aren't going to have hurricanes, but you never know when the weather might turn. You get heavy rains, winds, or even snow this time of year.
Yeah, it's our Super Bowl. We play all year to get to harvest, and once it's here, it's game time, and we do everything we can to get the crop out in a timely fashion, in a safe fashion, because we're all tired. Everybody is, and so you got to be extra alert, extra on edge, extra attentive to everything that's going on in the fields and on the roads, and but it's best time of the year is harvest.
What are those wheels towards the bottom of your screen there?
There, missed some. So this is your loss. So this is your thresher loss. So as it's going through, how many beans are getting through, and sieve loss out the back of the machine. It picks up when there's beans going out the back, and it'll tell you. So if you see a lot of that going on, you know something's wrong, and you got to stop and check it out, or whatever it might be. So the sickle on the front, the cutting blades, those will wear out. That's a minor thing. They just pop out a couple screws or bolts, and then you're back up and running. But we had a big one break last week. We had a PTO shaft knuckle where it comes together broke, and we were shut down for a day and a half trying to get parts and fix everything. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong. There's a lot of moving parts on this, and it can happen at any moment, so you always got to be paying attention.
But you're actually steering this.
Yep, I am.
You're not one of these spoiled guys with the...
Oh, no, I am. Yeah, I'm one of the spoiled guys with GPS.
Here?
Oh, yeah. Yep. This piece, I'm still doing some end rows, trying to get some area to turn around. At 40 feet, you need a big area to spin around. Yeah, the technology and the equipment has changed so much that it makes our job easier. And sometimes we're spending 12 to 15 hours a day in this machine, and anything we can do to take operator fatigue off of us is
That's a real
good.
thing.
It is. Yeah. It is. Especially with toddlers at home. It's a real thing.
And basically what your seed is heavier.
Right.
So there's screens basically, and as it comes in, it threshes it, which separates the seeds from whatever, and that kind of grinds that up. That the rest of that chaff falls through and is then conveyored out this way while the seeds fall down to the bottom, and then they're augered back up to the...
Yeah. If you've ever watched Gold Rush, it's a lot. It's a sluice, sort of.
Sure.
You're separating the heavier stuff, which floats to the bottom, the soybeans or the corn or whatever you're harvesting, and then all the junk comes out the back and gets spread out, and it's turned into organic matter for the soil. And you can see there's no pods, there's no beans in there. It takes it all off of the stem, and as you shouldn't see any beans on the ground, or very few. There's one.
In the industry to tailor make certain varieties for drier longer growing seasons, wetter growing seasons, what have you, all the different climatic conditions and soil conditions that can be out there. So some varieties, they're all soybeans, and at the end, we're probably not gonna be able to tell them apart, but some of those plants will mature faster and then dry out faster than others, basically.
That's right, and they do that for a number of reasons. Like you said, climate. Further north, you get the shorter growing season you have, so you have to have a shorter day bean to get that crop to finish in time to harvest. So as you go south, you can grow, your growing season's a lot longer, so maybe you'll want a longer season soybean, and then you have the potential to grow a bigger, higher yield in that soybean. Not that up north you can't do that with a shorter day bean. We're getting pretty good yield here with some, I'd say, mid-range to short-range soybeans. But when grain cart's full, you got enough for a load, so it makes it real easy. Typically, it's just my dad and I. I do have an uncle that helps out when he can, but.
So if you guys are really going, you got a guy combining and the other guy kind of hauling to town and make it work?
Yeah. Depending on breakdowns and the weather, we typically harvest for about a month. And we harvest right around 1,500 acres or so. And it's just my dad and I and a part-time help with my uncle. So we can usually get it done in a month unless something catastrophic happens, and then but we usually break something. We broke something last week. If you run equipment, you're going to break something. Something's, it's been sitting in the shed all year. So once you get it out and get it going, you're bound to have some breakdowns.
A lot of people in town watch this and they, why are all these trucks and trailers and tractors and grain carts clogging up our highways this time of year? That's not easy on you guys either, but it asks for those people to just have patience, because like you, we're here out here on a Sunday. We got a truck full of beans that we got to get to town before 5 o'clock, and there's no other way to do it if we want to get this harvest out on time, because if we don't, we may not get it out, right?
That's right. Yeah. If you like eating bacon, these beans have to get to town, so they're going to a feed of pig somewhere, and then that pig's going to end up on your plate. We have to go when we're able to, especially without bins.
Right.
So if the elevator's open, we're trying to get there. Yeah, and we don't want to be on the road any more than we have to be. It's not fun driving a combine down a road, having a bunch of people behind you.
I know folks that aren't as connected to agriculture maybe sometimes get a little frustrated this time of year because roads can get blocked up and there's some slower moving traffic. But like you said, these guys, a lot of them don't have on-site storage, so they've got to get, as soon as that comes off the field, off the combine, they got to get that to town so that it doesn't spoil, and that ensures that we have a good, safe, abundant food supply.
It does, and I've been both in the combine or the person behind the combine that's wanting to get moving, and I would rather not be in that position, and most farmers wouldn't.
Right.
But it's just a matter of you have to get from one field to the next. We have to utilize the roads that are available, and in the short window of time that you have, unfortunately, you have to do those things in order to get things done.
So you were saying you guys don't basically have any on-farm storage?
No, we don't. My dad used to farm with his brother, and we had a bin site, and it was in my uncle's backyard. So when we split up, we kind of lost our bin site, and so now we haul everything to town.
So obviously you have more than one field, but how far is that you haul it then?
Well, it's all the hills. So from here, it's, 8 miles or so. And from home, it's about 5, 7, somewhere in there.
And so how does that work? You have so much storage rented or whatever,
Right.
so you're not actually selling beans right now, you're just taking them in there for storage?
Well, it could be we've sold some last year, so we're delivering to that contract.
Okay.
You can sell next year's crop
Right.
or 2 or 3 years in the future if you want to. It's a little more risky to do that,
Yep.
so we never sell it all because you don't know what you're going to get.
Right.
But so actually, right now we're filling the contract, but
Okay.
as soon as that's full, we'll just be storing it until we decide to sell it.
And at that point,
And then we just push a button basically at home. Don't have to haul it again. Don't have to clean out bins on the hottest day of the year, which is usually when that happens.
the hard work's done, you just gotta decide when to market it.
Yeah, a lot of this will go to the PNW, Seattle, Portland, the ports up there, and get on a boat and go over to Asia somewhere. Yep. China, Philippines, that part of the world.
So how much storage do you have here?
So probably somewhere around 2.5 million.
You're over 2 million
Yeah.
bushels. So how much grain do you take in on a?
If things are really, well, annually it's a kind of a moving target because we've tried to start moving more. Since we don't process any grain here, so every kernel of corn, we process a little bit of cracked corn, but essentially everything that comes in here goes out on a semi to a processing type of a facility. So we've started trying to do, what we don't get in the fall, we've tried to start moving past here with our own semis, just like hauling right off the farmer's yard directly to where we need it. Because it doesn't really do us any good to dump corn in here in January to turn around and load it right back on a semi and bring it to a feed mill or an ethanol plant in February. We'll just move it directly to there.
So where, and maybe it goes all over, but most of your grain goes where? Is there a?
To like the last year or two, the rail has been a big bid for us, so that goes out to the Pacific Northwest.
So most of that's going on a train, going
Yep.
to the Northwest, putting on a barge and going to Asia,
Right.
likely?
Yep, exactly.
corn and
Soybeans,
beans or just
yeah, it has been both. We've got 2 soybean plants within essentially an hour of here, so we do move some grain to both of those. And and we have a couple of large feed mills in our company, so we do transfer corn to those mills out of our satellite locations, you might say.
People are appreciative of where their food comes from, and all the rest of the things that come along with the harvest.
Yeah, some people say, how can you just drive in circles all day? All you do is go back and forth, turn around and go back and forth. But when you think about the bigger purpose and what you're actually doing, it's a passion of mine and my dad's as well, and it's not work when we're out here. Yeah, we get tired, but we love what we do, and it's we wouldn't want to be doing anything else this time of the year. Maybe golfing, but this is pretty good too. This is new this year.
So they just give you an individual ID card, basically, for your farm. And
Pulls up all the information, and there's a guy loading the train. The nice thing about this elevator is they have 2 scales, so you weigh in on one and you weigh out on another, so you're not waiting for the same. It speeds up a lot.
there's got to be a lot of support behind whoever's out there doing all that work to keep him rolling.
Yeah, they absolutely do it. It takes a huge community, beginning with the family. Then you have your fuel folks that have to be out there, the equipment manufacturers, and the parts people ready to go. So it's a huge effort for a very short window of time to stay ahead of Mother Nature.
Right now we're trying to capture the data that's out of these combines from the yields, and we turn around and we process that data as a layer, and we use it with soil tests to determine how much fertilizer to put back out.
Okay.
So we're trying to take real-time data and make good decisions. Fertilizer is expensive, and over applying it is bad for the environment, and so we try and take real data from the combines and turn it back into information that can be used to make decisions for the growers. And so right now we're working with the growers as they get their fields done to get us that data so we can build maps to fertilize back out for the next year.
Sure.
So as soon as the ground cools off a little bit, we'll start fertilizing.
So we were riding in the combine looking at his maps as he's going, getting the real-time data, higher yield here, a little bit less up there, and so you're taking that exact map, working with the producer and saying you need to do X, Y, and Z, or get this seed or that seed, or
so seed will be a part of it too, and that, it'll be based on, what the goals are for the grower in that particular field, but like you said, those areas that yield a little bit more, a little bit less, well, we'll put a little bit more, a little bit less fertilizer, because we replace what we took off as a layer, and then look at soil tests to determine if we want to build the soil tests at all, if a low soil test is what's limiting that yield.
Weeds will take nutrients, they'll take moisture, they will choke out the actual plant you're trying to grow. If there's enough of them, the soybeans won't grow if there's a bunch of weeds. The weeds will take over. So you need to not have any weeds in there to grow the most healthy plant you can.
Right. You're saying, it makes it a lot harder to get good clean beans in here to the elevator where they're going to go get further processed if they don't come from a clean field. Right.
That helps a lot. Fast.
Now we can see how we did.
86,000 bushels, 13.8, so 13.5 is, I think, perfect. So we're right on where we need to be.
That's awesome.
So these are soybeans.
You guys dumping a lot of beans?
That's beans, and then that's going up that leg, coming across this conveyor, and they're going into this bin right here. That bin in the back there's full. That went full last week. These other two bins right here are corn. So that's our dry setup.
So explain what that is and why you have to do that.
So corn will only store in a facility at basically under 15%, 14.5%, depending on the temperature outside and stuff like that. So the grain comes in at, today we've gotten in grain as high as 26% already.
Oh,
yeah. So, and some grain is coming in at 16. So we dump it in the pit in there, and it goes up into one of these cement silos, and then it ends up going through the dryer, and we dry it down into that 14% range.
So how does that work if you're dumping grain of all different moistures? I'm assuming mixing it all up.
Yep.
And then you got to
it's kind of an average coming out of the bottom, and so that 16% corn, we don't dry that.
Right.
Because just the air, the ambient temperature enough right now that'll come off, a point will come out of that in a bin with a fan on. Sure. So
if it was December, that might be a different story.
Right. Yes. So right now we're basically only, drying you might say, probably a 16.5 and up.
Okay. But that dryer come fall when you're taking in a lot of grain, that's running nonstop probably.
Yes, depending on how much is coming in, it has. Yes, well, we have run that 24 hours a day. Yep. So we have two of them there. So
how does that work?
So that Brock one is newer. So there's a sensor at the top, and it knows the moisture of that corn coming in, and there's a sensor at the bottom. Okay. And it knows that it has to spin that drum so fast based on that corn that's at the top, because it knows at that temperature and the ambient temperature how long it's going to take.
So there's a drum in there that spins and kind of lets the corn come.
So every one of those is a column in there, and so there's a drum that just grabs a little out of every column as it spins around, and then that's what drops it in the conveyor as it leaves. There's a great big burner coming out of this propane tank. Yep, and so there's a large burner right in the center of there.
So same with soybeans, really.
We have dried soybeans before, but that's kind of risky.
Oh, really?
If you get them too hot, the oil starts coming out, and then you have fire. There's a lot of people trying to produce safe and sustainable food for a lot of people out here,
Right.
you know, and so nobody can afford to do it, you know, excessively and to waste fertilizer and to, you know, everybody that I know wants to leave this place better than, you know, for their next generations. And so, you know, we're trying to make decisions with variable rate technology and, you know, cover crops and just all the things that are out there to help make our environment better and our food safe and sustainable.
So if that crop's ready to come out, so much planning and preparation and hard work and toil has gone into that. It's ready to be harvested. You know, we're not just going to work 8 hours a day and then go back home for the other 16. We got to get that crop out, and we're going to work a lot of long hours.
They do, and it's not just a matter of covering your income, but they have so much invested that if they lose part of that crop, the income for the year could be gone, and they may owe more than they bring in. And so that's the seriousness of it. On an average of years over time, most folks will say, well, gosh, there's always time, but it only takes 1 or 2 years, and that can throw you into bankruptcy.
Right.
So they are out there the heavy hours. Farmers would rather be home with their families or at a sporting event or just spending time at home with the family. But it's just that important that they're out there now.
Yeah, it's fun to be able to produce food and fuel and things that everybody needs in the world. And when we grow a sustainable product like soybeans and something that adds protein to people's diets all around the world, it's when you start thinking about those things, it makes what you do feel a little more important.
Tailor rides just as well as anyone.